Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. We've got a ton of new Q posts, and we're going to get started right on them. Keep in mind, I read these first before doing any analysis, so if you want to skip past that, just click the timestamp in the video description. Going to start you out right here, 56 minutes past the hour of 12 p.m. Reminder, Iran is next. Marker, class-sec 11A P2.2. Installments. 250 billion, January 1st, June 1st. No inspection at GZNR sites. No missile tech prevention. Load carrying. ICBM. Think North Korea. Who controls the dollars? Who really controls the dollars? Why does the EU have a vested interest in this deal? Who receives the money? When the U.S. sends billions in aid and/or climate and/or etc., who or what entity audits/tracks to confirm intended recipients received? I'm assuming that's recipients received. None. How does GS fund WW counter events? Who funds WW leftist events? American taxpayer. Subsidize. Define nuclear standoff. Who benefits? How do you squeeze funds out of the U.S.? Threat to humanity? Environment push? Think Paris Accord. Who audits/tracks the funneled money? Define kickback. Define slush fund. EPA. No oversight regarding Hussein. Why? How does the C_A fund non-sanctioned ops? Off the books. Reread past drops. Will become relevant. Welcome, Mr. President. The U.S. will not agree to continue the Iran deal as it currently stands. Q. 48 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m., we have Do You Believe the World is Awakening? Then we have an Aljazeera link. Coincidence? Q. Adding on to that at 51 minutes past the hour of 1 p.m., why was Armenia mentioned recently? Clowns losing control. Q. "19 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m., Q is responding to an Anon who posts this Al Jazeera image right here and says, amazing Q. Thousands of people are on the streets cheering and hugging each other, jumping up and down and honking their horns. Things happened so quickly. Amazing Q. Q responds, like North Korea, they have been freed. Assets on the ground. Q. 31 minutes past the hour of 2 p.m. Think SA. Order is important. SA being Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Armenia, Iran, any other rogue nuclear states? Define hostage, define protection. Who is protected by rogue nuclear states? Trust the plan. The world is connected. Why are border states like Arizona, California important? Why is Mexico vocal against POTUS? Those who are the loudest. Where we go one, we go all. The Great Awakening, Iron Eagle, Q. 39 minutes past the hour of 2 p.m., Q responds to an Anon who says, just don't forget the Americans' boss, MAGA. And Q says, happening now, Q. Adding on to that at 47 minutes past the hour of 2, Q leaves a link and says, happy hunting. Adding on to that at 56 minutes past the hour of 2 p.m., wake up, learn, question, fight. Another link and Q. 12 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m., Red Cross Iran. Red Cross Pakistan, Red Cross North Korea, Red Cross ... Evidence? Could that be evidence? Define smuggle. What is smuggled? What funds are used to pay for the goods? These people are sick. Relevant to events about to unfold. Follow the executive orders. Q. Adding on to that at 25 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. When was UBL, assumedly Osama bin Laden, killed in Pakistan? May 2nd, 2011. Where was Osama bin Laden located? Close proximity to? Think logically. When did Awan's mission go green? 2004. Follow the timeline. What happened during this time with Huma, Valerie Jarrett, Awan +3? Then we have an article. A link, follow the timeline. Another link, Secretary of State. Another link, who is protected. And a fourth link, aid cut off in 2010. Coincidence, what happened in 2011? Define exchange. Sick yet? Q. 24 minutes past the hour of 4 p.m. Listen carefully, trust the plan. We have a YouTube link. Q. 27 minutes past the hour of 6, we have this graphic right here regarding Robert Byrd, KKK member. From my first day in the Senate, I sought out his guidance, and he was always generous with his time and his wisdom. And as Secretary of State, I continued to rely on his advice and counsel. Hillary Clinton, regarding Robert Byrd. Then we have this quick history lesson. 13th Amendment, abolished slavery. 100% Republican support, 23% Democratic support. 14th Amendment gave citizenship to freed slaves. 94% Republican support, 0% Democratic support. 15th Amendment, right to vote for all, 100% Republican support, 0% Democratic support. Q says, it's time to learn the truth. Why are D's inspiring activist groups to remove history regarding slavery? Why are history books painting a different picture than before? Why are teachers following a new false script? Republicans are racist. Learn the term projection. Why are they threatened? MSM has you brainwashed. They want you controlled. They want you enslaved. They want you divided. They want you dependent. What has the Democratic Party done for the black population? What has the Republican Party done for the black population? What has POTUS done in 1 year? What is the net worth of black leaders today? Why does Pelosi mention MLK 74% of the time during weekly addresses? MLK was a conservative. Learn the truth. Reread drops regarding slave grip of black population. Why do we look at skin color? Division. It's time to unite and fight for our freedom. Together we are strong. Apart we are weak. Patriots have no skin color. Q. And most recently, 56 minutes past the hour of 9 p.m., we have a link coming soon. Q. Okay, let's take you back to the first post, 56 minutes past the hour of 12. Reminder, Iran is next. Marker, class-section 11A. I'm not sure if that's page 2.2 or paragraph 2.2. Installments, $250 billion, January 1st to June 1st. Okay, I'm going to stop right there because there's a lot to chew on in this. Well, we know Iran is next, okay? We've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about it for weeks. And North Korea is already working on, or at least talking about outwardly, denuclearizing or at least reducing, which is great news. Well, what was the deal over there? They were CIA, but they were propped up, right? There was a clown organization, just like Iran. Now, Iran is next. It's the same kind of thing. This one's going to be a little bit trickier, okay? Now, as far as this class, all this right here, I'm going to take you to this, and I'm not sure if I'm right here, but I found, I originally assumed it had something to do with defunding Pakistani, defunding them. Well, we're going to talk about them in a minute, but being able to kind of defund their operations over there. This is off the DoD Financial Management Regulation, and I'm just going to read the second paragraph here. This is Volume 11A, Chapter 2. All orders or contracts for work or material or for the manufacture of material pertaining to approved projects heretofore or hereafter placed with government-owned establishments shall be considered as obligations in the same manner as provided for similar orders or contracts placed with commercial manufacturers or private contractors, and the appropriations shall remain available for the payment of the obligations so created as in the case of contracts or orders with commercial manufacturers or private contractors. Okay, so they're talking about project orders and who's able to kind of talk about that. Here's the applicability and scope. The provisions of this chapter apply to the Office of the Secretary of Defense, the military departments, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the combatant commands, the Inspector General of the Department of Defense, the defense agencies, and the DoD field activities, hereafter referred to collectively as DoD components. The strange part that seemed strange to me was this middle one. The term approved projects, as used in the reference authority, has no special meaning. It refers simply to projects that have been approved by officials having legal authority to do so. Well, that seems really, really vague, folks. I'm not really sure. But here's essentially what I'm getting out of this. We know Barack Obama sent $250 billion to Iran, and he had no intentions of inspecting those sites. Okay? No inspections at the Ground Zero nuclear reactor sites. Yeah, well, he wasn't planning to. No missile tech prevention? Of course not. Why? Because we were selling them the missile tech. This was a clown organization, just like North Korea. And even Q says, think North Korea. Load-carrying intercontinental ballistic missiles. Folks, we were giving them nukes. Who controls the dollars? Well, lots of people control the dollars. But before we talk about who controls the dollars, let's talk about the $250 billion, or let's talk about $250 billion. I'm not sure if it's the same one, but this is from Haaretz. And this is April 24th, 2018. UK bank accused of $250 billion Iran money laundering scheme. The alleged payments, which occurred between 2004 and 2007, left the U.S. financial system vulnerable to terrorists, according to New York's financial regulator. A British bank schemed with the Iranian government to launder $250 billion from 2001 to 2007, leaving the United States financial system vulnerable to terrorists, New York's financial regulator charged Monday. State Financial Services Superintendent Benjamin Losky signed an order that requires London-based Standard Chartered Bank to answer his questions following an investigation into wire stripping, the practice of removing crucial identifiers in financial transactions. Wow. The bank conspired with its Iranian clients to route nearly 60,000 different U.S. dollar payments through Standard Chartered's New York branch after first stripping information from wire transfer messages used to identify sanctioned countries, individuals, and entities, according to agency's order. The order said the transactions provided the bank with millions of dollars in fees at a time when such trade was restricted. Wow. Okay, so we had the Standard Chartered Bank, and they were laundering all this money, and it was crippling us, and it was giving all this money to terrorists. Why would they do that? And then when we tried to investigate, we couldn't do it because they removed these identifiers. We couldn't figure out what these financial transactions were. Why would they do such a thing? The state agency called the bank a rogue institution and says its actions left the U.S. financial system vulnerable to terrorists. Excuse me. Weapon dealers, drug kingpins, and corrupt regimes, and deprived law enforcement investigators of crucial information used to track all manner of criminal activity. The bank stripped information from the money transfers that is used to identify countries being sanctioned and replaced it with false entries or returned it to Iran for wire stripping and resubmission according to the order. The bank developed various ploys that were all designed to generate a new payment message for the New York branch that was devoid of any reference to Iranian clients, according to the order. The order also identifies an October 2006 panicked message from a London Group executive director who worried the transactions could lead to very serious or even catastrophic reputational damage to the group. Okay, so I don't want to read this whole article for you, but you can see tons of money was going. And this was through a UK bank. Well, who was laundering all that money? Who controls these money? Well, Soros controls the money. You could say the Saudis control the money. You could say the CIA, the State Department, really was funding Soros, and they were doing it through these sort of how do you call them, like they're not PACs, but they're sort of like that. They're like what's the word I'm looking for? It's essentially a program. Let me just take you over here to Fox News Politics. This is George Soros. This is from April 19th, 2017. Judicial Watch sues State Department, U.S. aid for Soros records. Judicial Watch said Wednesday it is suing the State Department and U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, to get records showing nearly $5 million in American taxpayer money went to the Macedonian branch of George Soros' Open Society Foundation. Folks, why are we sending $5 million of our money to the Macedonian branch of George Soros' Open Society? He's got a lot of money. Why doesn't he just send $5 million? Why is he sending our money? The conservative watchdog group filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the State Department and USAID after both failed to respond to a February 16th Freedom of Information Act request seeking records related to grants or payment authorizations. Records of communication between State Department or USAID officials and the Open Society Foundations. The group had also asked for responsive records of communication sent from Jess L. Bailey, an Obama appointee and former U.S. ambassador to Macedonia, and similar records of the political activities to the Open Society Foundation Macedonia. The USAID website reported that between February 27, 2012 and August 31, 2016, USAID gave $4.8 million in taxpayer money to Soros organization. The USAID's website links to one of the Open Society Foundation websites, which says the project trained hundreds of young Macedonians on topics such as freedom of association, youth policies, citizen initiatives, persuasive argumentation, and use of new media. Great, so we spent $4.8 million to teach these young Macedonian guys how to do youth policies. What's a youth policy? Citizen initiatives. What kind of citizen initiative? Persuasive argumentation? Use of new media? I don't even know what that means, folks. Okay, but you see what I'm going. I don't even really know what you call these things. But they're these organizations. They're sort of semi-political or whatever, but they were funding Soros and they were giving him all this money. And of course, What would Soros would do with the money? Well, he controls everything. Okay, he controls all these different initiatives. He controls all these different slush funds. Why does the EU, have a vested interest in this deal? Well, of course they do. Of course they do. They don't want to see this go down. They want this trade to go through. They want this deal to stay through. Why? Because they're trading with Iran. They've got a sweet deal with trade in Iran. Remember, Iran uses the euro, and almost every time one of these countries switches over either away from the dollar, what happens? We invade them. Who receives the money? Well, George Soros receives the money. The EU they get the money, okay? They've got a vested interest. They don't want to see a stabilized North Korea. Remember, think of the EU at this point as what we had when we were under Obama, okay? They're in the process of selling everybody out right now. They're not interested in having a stable Iran. They're not interested in that. When the U.S. sends billions in aid and or climate and or etc., who or what entity audits, tracks to confirm intended recipients? Nobody. And Q answers it right there. Nobody. Clearly nobody was. Billions of dollars. Remember, Obama flew them tons of cash as well on a plane. Who does that? Do you know, have you ever seen that much money on a plane before? How does George Soros fund these counter events? Well, we were just talking about it. Through companies through groups like this, USAID. Why are they training these young Macedonian guys? Why aren't we training U.S. youth? Why aren't we American youth? We should be teaching them how to, I don't know, do whatever those youth policies. Teach us youth policies. How does George Soros fund us? That's how he does it. Who funds the worldwide leftist events? George Soros does, and we do. Essentially, we do, right? American taxpayers subsidized. Define nuclear standoff. Well, it's best, I guess, to answer the second question too. Who benefits? Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. Okay, whoever's selling, right? Whoever's selling all this missile tech, and who was selling? The CIA was selling it to North Korea, selling it to Iran, Syria, whoever was buying, right? How do you squeeze funds out of the U.S.? Well, you create a need. You scare everybody about climate change, and you freak everybody out so that they'll give to different kinds of initiatives. Threat to humanity. Yeah, what's a threat to humanity? Well, global warming. Remember Al Gore? Al Gore was telling us 10 years ago that we were gonna start flooding, or we were gonna have an ice age, or we were gonna have this, we were gonna have that. Hasn't happened yet. You know why? Because he hasn't gotten enough funding to stop it yet. That's why. Environment push. Of course, it's environment push. Think Paris Accord. Well, we are going to think Paris Accord. We're going to think similarly like that too. Who audits and tracks the funnel money? Evidently no one. Define kickback, define slush fund. I think we kind of already have, right? I think a perfect example is Al Gore. He used all these green companies to get tons and tons of money to people supporting this cause, and I haven't seen any windmills. I don't see any electric cars. I don't see any of this stuff going on. Why not? Because they're taking these and they're just making millions off it. They're never going to give us our electric cars, right? EPA. Okay, let's talk about the EPA real quick. This is off the Washington Post, March 13th. EPA's Pruitt says California is not the arbiter of the nation's emissions standards. Environmental Protection Agency Administrator Scott Pruitt said Tuesday that EPA is not planning to set stricter fuel economy standards beyond 2025 and questioned whether states such as California should be able to enact their own tougher emissions rules for cars and light trucks. In an interview with Bloomberg TV, Pruitt said that California, which has a waiver under the 1970 Clean Air Act giving it authority to set its own auto emission standards, cannot dictate vehicle emissions across the country. The Obama administration reached a 2009 deal with California and the auto industry that set the first carbon limits on tailpipe emissions. Okay. The point of this article here is that California is kind of trying to dictate what that's going to be. Why? Because they want all these different automakers to kind of conform to it. Remember the story about Volkswagen having to conform. They ended up having to pay millions because they couldn't do it. It was a big problem. There's a big sort of dichotomy here with green cars and safe cars. And somewhere we got to find, a nice happy medium. I don't necessarily know what that is, but through groups like this with the EPA, during Hussein's reign, there was none. And let me show you this right here. Obama EPA did not do background checks on hundreds of cyber contractors, Watchdog warns. This is from back October 17th, 2017. Hundreds of contractors holding important information security jobs at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency have for years been working as high-level operators of its computer systems without the appropriate security background checks, a situation the agency is still scrambling to correct. During all that time, the agency apparently did not even have a complete list of all the high-risk positions where detailed background investigations of outside contractors were required. In other instances, the agency had assigned lower levels of background scrutiny to the positions that the importance of the positions and their information access deserved, according to preliminary investigations carried out by the EPA's Office of Inspector General, OIG. Moreover, despite much touted efforts to tighten up cybersecurity by the Obama administration, the situation was still bad when Obama left office. An internal EPA tally in February 2017 showed that nearly 70% of 484 contractors carrying a special embedded chip card allowing elevated access to EPA computer systems for their work still had not gotten their higher level background checks. Okay, so clearly no oversight there. People that were running the EPA were just they had no security checks. What was going on over there? Were they just cooking books over there? What was going on? Okay, evidently Pruitt wants to know, and that's why California's barking back. How does the C, missing the I, fund non-sanctioned ops? Well, they have to do everything by the books. They have to do everything around it, through things like the EPA, wherever they can find themselves a slush fund, an initiative, or whatever you want to call it, a think tank, whatever it is, whatever they can do off the books. Reread past drops will become relevant. Welcome, Mr. President. The U.S. will not agree to continue the Iran deal as it currently stands. And that's the way it's looking, at least as of now, folks. Let me just take you over to this real quick. This is again off Fox News. Iran promises severe consequences if U.S. backs out of nuclear deal. This is out from today. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani told the cheering crowd of thousands on Tuesday that if any country betrays the 2015 nuclear deal, they would face severe consequences. Rouhani did not go into specific details, but he told the crowd in Tabriz that the country is prepared for all possible situations, Reuters reported. He made the comments while President Trump is meeting in Washington with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron, who is working to convince him to stay in the pact. The New York Times reported that Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel will also work to convince Trump at a meeting later this week. Right. So these guys, these are all a bunch of clown folks. Okay. They want to keep him in this gig. They want to keep this kind of whole thing going. Right. This is their cash cow. Of course they want to do that. They don't want Trump to back out. They know that if they do this, we're going to go in there. We're going to figure out exactly what's going on. Are they really building nuclear bombs there? Not sure. Of course we're sure. What are we talking about here? Okay, moving on to the next post here. I'm actually going to read the next couple of posts because they all kind of join together here. 48 minutes after the hour of 1 p.m. Do you believe the world is awakening? Then we have a link to Aljazeera. Coincidence? Q. Q adds on here at 51 minutes past the hour of 1 p.m. Why was Armenia mentioned recently? Clowns losing control. And then we have a little clip from this article that I'm going to take you to here from Aljazeera. Armenia opposition leader demands snap election after PM resigns. Prime Minister Serge Sargsyan steps down amid protests, saying he will not be involved in required solutions to unrest. Armenia's opposition leader has demanded a snap parliamentary election in the wake of former Prime Minister Serge Sargsyan's resignation over widespread anti-government demonstrations. Nikol Pashinyan told a rally on Monday in Armenia's capital Yerevan he is ready to discuss conditions of Sargsyan's resignation and transfer of power. The National Assembly shall be entitled to nominate candidates for Prime Minister within a week. Until then, an interim government will be formed. After that, snap extraordinary parliamentary elections are needed, Pashinyan said, according to Armenian website news.am. Sargsyan resigned earlier on Monday following days of protest in Yerevan against his government, which critics accuse of corruption and authoritarian rule. Thousands of anti-government protesters have taken to the streets since demonstrations began on April 13th. Sargsyan said he would adhere to the demands of the protesters and step down. Opposition leader Nikol Pashinyan was right. I was wrong. This situation requires solutions, but I won't participate in them. I leave the post of this country's prime minister. A statement on Sargsyan's website said, "The movement on the streets is against my office. I will fulfill your claim," according to the statement. Pashinyan, who was released from police detention on Monday, fewer than 24 hours after being arrested at a protest in Yerevan, had called on his supporters to launch a velvet revolution to remove Sargsyan from power. Sargsyan, 63, had promised not to run for the post of prime minister, having served 2 consecutive 5-year terms as president, but was formally nominated by Armenia's ruling Republican Party earlier this month. Armenia amended its constitution to change the government from a presidential to a parliamentary system in a 2015 referendum, making the presidency largely ceremonial and strengthening the office of the prime minister, a position which is not constrained by term limits. Vartan Oskanian, a former Armenian foreign minister, told Aljazeera that anti-government demonstrations were sparked by Sargsyan reneging on a promise not to seek any high office if the constitutional change had passed. Okay, so you've got this guy here. Was this just a clown government here? Well, we knew. Remember, Q was telling about why was Armenia mentioned recently. Remember, we had a whole bunch of clown user identifications here on the boards. And we also probably, why would we have so many? For us, do you think they just wanted to change our opinions, or do you think there's a whole bunch of Armenians that were also following Q as well too? Keep in mind, why would the CIA, they have CIA over there as well. Why would they be worried about us? They're not worried about us. Our CIA would be worried about us, right? They're worried about their own people. So you've got this revolution going on here. Let's take you to the next. This is from that article. Excuse me. Thousands of people are on the streets, cheering and hugging each other, jumping up and down and honking their horns. Things happen so quickly. I don't think the crowd was expecting this, but it is exactly what they wanted, Forestier Walker said. We saw soldiers take to the streets. We saw priests, children, and their parents, young and old, coming out to show Armenia was really united in wanting these changes. This is an indication of how much people in Armenia have realized that they had the power to effect change in a system that was widely regarded as corrupt. Well, that last sort of statement right there kind of sums it up, huh? Yeah, it's sort of the same idea as not just the Q movement, but the movement that you're starting to see around the world. People are starting to wake up. All these clowns can go away. And Q says, like North Korea, they have been freed. Assets on the ground. 2 great things to take away here. And, I think we've all been really, really excited about the idea that, it's such a wonderful thing for our country and for President Trump if we can really get this denuclearization of North Korea happening, if it's really, really true. And it seems that it is that way. This is something that's really unprecedented, folks. But, something maybe we don't think about a lot is what this means for North Korean people. These people who have never seen any kind of wealth or really true, any kind of freedom of information or, what they've been able to eat, what they've been able to grow, what they've been able to make, what they've been able to do. These people are being freed, and it was all because of these clowns that were infiltrating. Now, you say what you want about their own governments, but the CIA was popping these people up, and it's the same thing with the Armenians, and now the Armenians are able to celebrate. So, congratulations to the Armenians. Okay, keep in mind that Q said assets on the ground. Does that mean we have some assets on the ground in Armenia? Let's take a quick look to the map. Sorry, the map's really, really dark today. It's not wanting to show everything, but if you can see my cursor here, this is Armenia up here, okay? We have Syria here, Iraq here, and then this is Iran right in the center of your screen. Over here off to the right, we have the Uncle Stans, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, and down here, Pakistan, okay? So this is where we're focusing now, and now we've got troops down on the ground here, which is a very interesting spot. You have the Caspian Sea over here and the Black Sea on the other side. So interesting place to be, interesting times for sure, but I would imagine whatever's going to happen with Iran, it's going to start happening soon. Okay, let's move on to the next post. 31 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m. Think Saudi Arabia. Order is important. Saudi Arabia, North Korea, Armenia, Iran, and then it looks like it's alluding to something else. Well, Saudi Arabia, remember that was first. We cleaned out the whole royal family. It was all these people, all these princes were getting arrested, and there was a whole regime change over there, okay? And remember, that was a big, big clown organization. As a matter of fact, that was the biggest clown organization was probably over there, or at least one of them. And then we had North Korea. That was next. Also CIA. All this is CIA. And then we have North Korea. Now we've got Armenia as of today. And once again, congratulations to all my Armenian friends. It must be a great day for you. Armenia Iran being next. Iran's also propped up. So what would be next after Iran? Any other rogue nuclear states? Well, I can think of one. I can think of Pakistan, folks. Pakistan. Define hostage. Define protection. Who is protected by rogue nuclear states? Well, folks, terrorists. Terrorists are protected by rogue nuclear states. Bad actors, terrorist organizations, extremist organizations, people who mean us a lot of harm, people who want to build bombs. Trust the plan. The world is connected. Why are border states like Arizona and California important? Well, we talked a lot about this. Arizona and California, they're border states, and that's where all the human trafficking, all the smuggling's going on. I don't care if it's money. I don't care if it's people. I don't care if it's drugs, weapons, whatever it is. It's going on, and borders are always important. That's how you get from you can't get anywhere without getting through the border, right? California has also got a ton of ports. Long Beach, we talked about Long Beach the other day. Those are important. Remember all those LLCs where they shipping things out in container ships? Why is Mexico vocal against POTUS? Those who are the loudest. Well, I can't think of the only one that really kind of comes to mind as far as Mexicans go. That would be Vicente Fox, the former president there. Why would he be so loud? Was he complicit in all this? Was he kind of turning a blind eye or probably getting waxed? You know, he's probably getting tons of money, letting things go by through the Arizona-California border. That's big money. That's a big deal. You know, that's a lot of slush funds right there. Was he one of those who were the loudest? Where we go one, we go all. The Great Awakening, Iron Eagle. Well, we definitely are an awakening. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know if the Iron Eagle is referring to the old movie or whatever, but who knows? Maybe there's going to be a bunch of F-16s and we're all going to pew, pew, pew a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe the Iron Eagle isn't the Seal Trident. That's an Iron Eagle, isn't it? I'm not sure. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on the Iron Eagle. I'm sorry, I just don't have it right now. Let's see. 32 minutes after the hour, 2 p.m. Just don't forget the Americans, boss. Make America great again. Happening now. Q. And then 47 minutes after the hour of 2 p.m., Q sends us this link here and says happy hunting, which means I don't really know exactly what Q wants us to find. But here's what I'm thinking here. This takes you to the United Nations Panel of External Auditors. And this is interesting stuff. Now, whether or not I don't know that we ourselves will be able to audit the United Nations, so I can't imagine that being sent to us for that reason. But it looks like maybe Q could be suggesting that these are the people that were cooking the books, the very people that were supposed to being charged with, actually doing the audits. And as you can see here, you can read this for yourself. We're going to kind of skim it. But here on the left side are the panel members, and then, of course, the organizations audited. And some of these organizations are, of course, just different departments within the United Nations. Tribunal for Rwanda, United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Human Settlements Program, United Nations Entity for Gender Equality. So all sorts of great humanitarian stuff, right? Tons of good stuff. Then you get down here, talking about the World Health Organization, International Labor Organization. So lots of really, really interesting agencies. The International Atomic Energy Agencies. Were these people not being audited correctly? Is there a reason? There's obviously a reason Q wants us to look at this. I can't imagine us being able to audit them, or at least not as one country. That has to kind of be done with some agreements there. So I'm not really sure. But could they have been cooking the books over here in the UN? Happy hunting, Q says. I'll leave you that link below, of course. Now, adding on to that, Q says, wake up, learn, question, fight, and then sends us this article right here. And let's take you over here. This is off of NPR. June 16th, 2016. Report, Red Cross spent 25% of Haiti donations on internal expenses. The American Red Cross spent a quarter of the money people donated after 2010 Haiti earthquake, or almost $125 million, on its own internal expenses, far more than the charity previously had disclosed, according to a report released Thursday by Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley. The report also says the charity's top officials stonewalled congressional investigators and released incomplete information about its Haiti program to the public. It concludes there are substantial and fundamental concerns about the Red Cross as an organization. The report follows a nearly year-long investigation by the Iowa Republican and his staff, launched after coverage by NPR and ProPublica of the Red Cross's Haiti response. The venerated charity raised nearly $500 million after the disaster, more than any other nonprofit, but an ambitious plan to build housing resulted resulted in just 6 permanent homes, NPR and ProPublica found. Other findings in Senator Grassley's report. The charity insisted to congressional investigators that $70 million spent on program expenses included funds to oversee and evaluate its Haiti programs. But Grassley's office found that the charity is unable to provide any financial evidence that oversight activities in fact occurred. Red Cross CEO Gail McGovern told Grassley's office the charity gave the Government Accountability Office everything that they asked for during an earlier review. The report, however, says the organization did not provide everything requested, contrary to Ms. McGovern's multiple claims that it did. The Red Cross has kept the charity's own internal investigations and ethics unit severely undermanned and underfunded, the report says, and the charity appears to be reluctant to support the very unit that is designed to police wrongdoing within the organization. Red Cross officials defended the charity's work in a statement responding to the Grassley report, calling the organization's spending entirely justifiable given the size and complexity of the Haiti program. They also noted that the Red Cross receives favorable ratings for accountability from charity watchdog groups. Okay, so there's a lot more here, but I think you see where this is going, and we've already talked about the Red Cross. And if you remember, Q was talking about the Red Cross just a few days ago, that, remember, he was saying that the black population would never vote Democrat once they found out what was going on about Haiti. Well, we kind of know what was going on about Haiti. The Clinton Foundation was all up there. UNICEF was in there. Red Cross was in there. All these humanitarian organizations that are getting billions and billions and billions of dollars. And what are they using it for? They're using it to traffic people back and forth, to traffic weapons back and forth, to make all these deals, to make all these clown deals. It seems very clear to me that Q is making the suggestion here that somehow through this auditing through the UN, maybe these people were cooking the books and stuff for things like the Red Cross, for the Soros foundations, things like that were moving all this stuff across borders, and all the while weakening our own security and trafficking children, trafficking weapons and body parts and God knows what. Hopefully not, buddy. Let's move on. Forgive me. Q says, wake up, learn, question, fight. So wake up, learn, question, fight. Now let's take you over here. 12 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. Red Cross Iran. Red Cross Pakistan. Red Cross North Korea. Red Cross Haiti. Define smuggle. What is smuggle? Well, when you take something, you're not supposed to take it, and you take it across a border. That's a smuggling. You're not supposed to do that. It's against the law. There are those ellipses again. Does this mean we have evidence? We must have evidence. Well, clearly we've got evidence. The Red Cross is a CIA propped up foundation, folks. And this is how they were getting everything done. Define smuggled. What is smuggled? What funds are used to pay for the goods? All kinds of funds. Anything you want. Anything you wanted to pay to play for. What funds are used to pay for the goods? Well, you want to get some kids across the border? No problem. Just donate to my foundation and we'll work it right out. These people are sick. Relevant to events about to unfold. Follow the executive orders. Okay, so obviously there's been a lot of executive orders blocking the money for the people that were funding all this stuff, that were funding human trafficking. Remember, that was one of the first executive orders. We'll move on to the next one here. Okay, taking you over here. 25 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. When was Osama bin Laden killed in Pakistan? May 2nd, 2011. Where was Osama bin Laden located? Close proximity to? Think logically. Well, it was a close proximity to a military academy near Kabul in Pakistan. It was a compound there. And to be honest with you, I'm not really 100% convinced that he was killed there. We're not really sure. Think logically. Well, Q maybe is kind of turning us on to the fact that maybe that's not the case. When did Awan's mission op go green? 2004. Now I'm going to bounce around a little bit. Now I've got a ton of links, so I don't want to read a ton off every one, but let me take you over here to Medium. And I've already taken you down here. This is on Medium, 2004. This is a timeline of Imran Awan. It's kind of his life, a little highlight of his life. 2004. Imran Awan comes to Capitol Hill and begins working for Representative Robert Wexler, Florida Democrat. 2004 to 2005, Dr. Abdul Fadul bills Medicare and Medicaid thousands of times for procedures that weren't performed, including ones billed by the Cardiovascular Center in La Plata. 2005, Imran Awan begins working for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Later on that year, Abid Awan, Imran Awan's brother, joins Imran Awan working for Capitol Hill. 2007, Hina Alvi, Imran Awan's wife, is added to Capitol Hill payroll. Rao Abbas, Imran Awan's best friend, joins the payroll as well. Rao Abbas had previously lost his job at McDonald's. Times are tough. Note, IT services on the Hill are a cost center. Are a cost center. This means that each elected official can decide who she employs for IT services, and the IT professional bills the elected official's office for services. So, 2008, Hina Albi's doing really well. She buys a home for $470,000 in Lorton, Virginia. Then she buys a second home. She must be doing really, really well. And then Imran Awan puts a home he owns in Springfield in his father's name. And then we get this mortgage crisis, and all of a sudden, all this hijinks ensue. 2009, Barack Obama is sworn in as President of the United States. He quickly appoints Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State in charge of Foreign Affairs. 2009, FBI raids offices of Dr. Ali Al-Tar for defrauding Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance companies by billing for non-existent medical procedures. Why do you keep billing people for stuff they didn't have? Okay, all this stuff going on. Remember the Wands, they were in charge. They had all the passcodes for Debbie Wasserman Schultz and that that whole insurance file there. Follow the timeline. What happened during this time with Valerie Jarrett and Awan. Valerie Jarrett and Awan, remember, they're both Iranian. All right? Valerie Jarrett and Huma, not Awan. Okay, follow the timeline. This takes you to here. And I'm not 100% sure about all of this, but this right here is HR 5734, 2012. And let me just read a little bit of this here. The House of Representatives, a bill to provide compensation for the deadly acts by elements of the Pakistani military and intelligence services against United States citizens. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Pakistan Terrorism Accountability Act of 2012. Section 2, findings. Congress finds the following. Pakistan, through the Inter-Services Intelligence Organization, maintains control and influence in Afghanistan through militant Islamic networks, such as the Haqqani network, in order to secure its strategic position and expand its sphere of influence, not only in Afghanistan, but also in Kashmir and against India. A 2011 report published by the Combating Terrorism Center at West Point states that during the 1980s, the Pakistani state has long been a core sponsor and beneficiary of the Haqqani network. During the 1980s, Jalaluddin Haqqani quickly rose to be one of the ISI's most favorite field commanders, and the support he provided would have a significant impact upon Pakistan's security establishment in the jihad in Kashmir in the years to follow. Yet, Pakistan's favorite Afghan proxy is also the very same actor that has served as Al-Qaeda's primary local enabler for over 2 decades. Given the ISI's historical sponsorship of the Haqqani network, it is highly unlikely that Pakistan has not been aware of this history. And it goes on to talk about all these different attacks here. Okay, this is some really, really good stuff here. Section 3. It shall be the policy of the United States to limit United States foreign assistance to Pakistan if Pakistan's military or intelligence services continue to support or provide assistance to organizations that target United States citizens. Okay, so this was kind of we're going to start cutting the money off. And then you have the second link here. This is HR 1699. And then it says Secretary of State. Let me take you to 1699. This, to me, is the Pakistan Foreign Aid Accountability Act. This is just a little summary here. Assistance from being provided to Pakistan unless the Secretary of State certifies to Congress that the government of Pakistan did not have any information regarding Osama bin Laden's possible whereabouts on or after September 11th, 2001, or 2, if the government of Pakistan did have information regarding Osama bin Laden's possible whereabouts on or after September 11th, 2001, it expeditiously communicated such information to the U.S. government. Okay, notice that the Secretary of State is the only one that can make that decision, okay, whether aid or not can go through to Pakistan. Well, who was Secretary of State? And of course, Q's asking Secretary of State. Who was Secretary of State? Who was protected? Well, we know who Secretary of State was back then, right? Under Obama. Obama quickly appointed her. Who is protected? Well, this is HR 285, Pakistani Temporary Protected Status Act of 2011 from our man Al Green. And I'm not talking Al Green. Designated Pakistan under Section 244 of the Immigration and Nationality Act to permit nationals of Pakistan to be eligible for temporary protected status under such sections. Okay, so Al Green had just wanted a little bit of protection. He wanted to stay together, right? Al Green, the same guy that tried to impeach Trump a couple times, I think. Okay, so why does he need protection? So look at this timeline, strange timeline. We've got the money kind of basically cutting off the cabal here. And then nothing can kind of pass through unless it's okay with the Secretary of State. And then we've got this guy looking to protect the Pakistanis just in case something happens. And then there's another link here. Who is protected? Well, Pakistanis would be protected. Aid cut off in 2010. Let's take you to this article here. This is of The Guardian. 60 years of U.S. aid to Pakistan. Get the data. As the U.S. announces it is to withhold military aid to Pakistan, find out how much money America has given to the country since 1948. The Obama administration has announced it will withhold more than 1/3 of all military assistance to Pakistan. An aid envelope worth some $800 million. The withheld aid includes funding for military equipment and reimbursements for selected Pakistani security expenditures, including a payment of $300 million for counterinsurgency programs. Wow, okay, so that's a lot of money there, right? Lot of money. Aid cut off in 2010. What was going on around that time? Coincidence? What happened in 2011? I can think of a couple things that happened in 2011. Obama signed off on Iran's right to nuclear program in secret 2011 talks. Obama misled nation about secret deals with Iran. This is off of the Washington Free Beacon. President Barack Obama approved of Iran's rights to operate a nuclear program in 2011 during secret meetings with Iranian officials, according to new disclosures by Iran's supreme leader. The comments made earlier this year by Ali Khamenei dispute claims by the Obama administration that it only began talking to Iran after the election of President Hassan Rouhani. Khamenei revealed in a recent speech that talks began in secret with anti-Semitic, Holocaust-denying former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. At this time, Obama told the Iranians he endorses Iran's rights to have a nuclear program. How about that? That's really weird time, 2011. Just as we're shutting off all this aid to Pakistan, now we can start giving aid to somebody else. Why? Because there was public pressure. There was a ton of public pressure because we've been giving to Pakistan for 60 years, and people were tired of it. And it even says right here, where does it say? Okay, U.S. aid to Pakistan has a long political history, and this is not the first time money has been withheld. Here we pulled out all the figures, and so it goes on to say we've been doing this for a really, really long time, and here are some figures here. And the public was starting to get sick of it. What's going on over there? Why do that? Well, they kind of started to phase that out, and this guy helped make sure that anybody that was involved on our side would get protected. You see what's going on here? And then they could pull out and start giving it to Iran. Incidentally, also in 2011, this is off of medium.com, Clinton Foundation audit of 2011 found 7% of expenditures went to charity, 10% to travel and events, and 22% on salary. I don't want to stay on that. I just wanted to let you know that incidentally also happened in 2011. Okay. Define exchange. Sick yet? Well, it looks to me like, and I could be wrong, there's a lot of things that could probably be right about this, but it seems to me like, okay, we were done. Osama bin Laden, we got him, quote unquote, got him, right? Now let's go after somebody else. Let's send it another way. Let's work on Iran. Sick yet? Pretty sick. Let's move on to the next post. 24 minutes after the hour of 4, Q says, listen carefully and trust the plan. And folks, I'm not going to play this video for you if you don't mind. It's a long video. It's the Trump video, the one that got him, the one that says this speech will get him elected. You've seen it many times before. And I don't want to downplay the importance of it. I think Q is, we're always finding new things in it. And I'm just not going to play for it because it's already a really long video. Let me take you to this next post, please. This is 27 minutes after the hour of 6 p.m. And we have a man kissing Hillary. What's going on? That's Robert Byrd, KKK member. From my first day in the Senate, I sought out his guidance, and he was always generous with his time and with his wisdom. And as Secretary of State, I continued to rely on his advice and counsel. Hillary Clinton, 2008. Well, folks, that's a Christmas card right there, right? Put that up on the mantle, and you're good to go. It's heartwarming. That's what it is. Let's take a quick history lesson. 13th Amendment, abolish slavery. 100% Republican support, 23 Democratic support. You didn't want to... What's up, Democrats? You don't want to abolish slavery? What's going on? 14th Amendment gave citizenship to freed slaves. 94% 1% Republican support, 0% Democratic support. What's going on? You guys aren't turning out at the polls? What's going on? 15th Amendment, right to vote for all, 100% Republican support. Oh, again, 0 Democratic support. You don't want people to vote. You don't want to give citizenship to slaves. Seems like nice stuff. It's time to learn the truth. Why are these inspiring activist groups to remove history regarding slavery? Because they know what the truth. They know that if we see the truth, we're going to see what their history really is. Why are history books painting a different picture than before? Why are teachers following a new false script? Because that's the only script that's going to work. If you hit them in the schools before people ever get a chance to really know, people who already grew up that know this stuff, but the kids don't yet. And if you tell them, then that's going to be all they're ever going to know. They're going to grow up thinking Republicans are racist. Learn the term projection. Well, we know what projection is, but pretty much assume that whatever, whatever they're accusing us of is exactly what they're doing. Why are they threatened? Because they know we know. MSN has you brainwashed. They want you controlled. Well, of course they do. And they've been doing it for a long time. They've been doing a pretty good job of it, to be fair. They want you enslaved. They want you divided. Yeah, they don't want us to know this stuff. They want us dependent. What has the Tea Party done for the black population? Well, folks, nothing. A bunch of divide. And for a long time, that was like the cool party to vote for because it seemed like the socially conscious party, right? And folks, I don't want to go into party politics too much, but that was kind of the way they sold themselves. What has the R Party done for the black population? Well, right here. Abolish slavery, folks. Gave citizenship to freed slaves. Right to vote for all. How about giving them a lot more money in their pocket? That sounds like a good thing, right? That's what POTUS has done this year. What is the net worth of black leaders today? I don't know. Probably somewhere around Pelosi's. She's cruising. What was she? $196 billion. She had $1 squillion, folks. Why does Pelosi mention MLK 74% of the time during weekly addresses? Because she wants to tie herself to Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was a conservative. A lot of people forget that. Remember, Martin Luther King, you see, the great thing about Martin Luther King, and I don't want to go way into him, it's already a long video, but this is a great man, and he was solution-oriented, okay, as opposed to, say, modern day like an Al Sharpton. When do you see Al Sharpton? Al Sharpton doesn't show up for the good stuff. Al Sharpton shows up when it's time for the divide, when it's time to start banging the drum and start telling everybody how racist they are. That's when you see Al Sharpton, okay? But when you saw Martin Luther King, he was working in the trenches. He was working for solutions. He was actually doing things. He was actually creating opportunities for young black men, and they appreciated it. And of course, he had to go learn the truth, reread Tropps regarding slave grip of black population. Why do we look at skin color? Well, we always have. Let's face it, we all have a little bit of that in us. We see that. We see somebody different, we notice it. But it doesn't have to create division. It's created division because people have told us that. People have grown up saying things like, using this sort of projection, Republicans are racist, or whoever you want to plug in there. So-and-so is racist. So-and-so is biased. So-and-so is a homophobe. So-and-so is you get the idea. All they have to do is kind of start pounding it enough and people start to believe it. Well, it's time to unite and fight for our freedom. Together we are strong. Apart we are weak. Patriots have no skin color. Q. Indeed. Look, folks, we just saw some big stuff going on in our media, and we've got not just Armenia, North Korea, and I'm getting more and more listeners from Europe. I've got some listeners from Scotland, the UK, Ireland, Wales. It's fantastic to see people around the world grabbing onto this lesson. The world is watching, guys. This is for all of us. This is not just for the USA. It so much of it stems from things that are happening in the USA, but this is for all of us, and you get the idea. It's time for us to unite. Patriots have no skin color. That's right. We have all kinds of skin color. That's what I think. We look all kinds of cool. All right. Now, I don't have the next post, but I'm going to hunt it up for you. There was another post here, and I'm going to see if I can hunt it up for you and grab you the links. Well, folks, I cannot find the actual post coming through here. I was able to get the links here, but basically it would be a post on, so I can't give you this timestamp. I'm sorry, but it was 2 links, and then Q says coming soon. So let me take you to them. The first link is here. This is Chuck Grassley, United States Senator for Iowa. Grassley refers Planned Parenthood fetal tissue procurement organizations to FBI Justice Department for investigation. This is from December 13th, 2016. following an investigation into the practice of fetal tissue transfers and the federal laws governing the practice. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley is referring several Planned Parenthood affiliates and companies involved in fetal tissue transfers, as well as the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, to the FBI and the Department of Justice for investigation and possible prosecution. Folks, this is HBO creepy. I don't take lightly making a criminal referral, but the seeming disregard for the law by these entities has been fueled by decades of utter failure by the Justice Department to enforce it, Grassley said, and unless there's a renewed commitment by everyone involved against commercializing the trade in aborted fetal body parts for profit, then the problem is likely to continue. Grassley's referral follows the completion of a Senate Judiciary Committee majority staff analysis of more than 20,000 pages of documents provided voluntarily by the organizations and companies involved. While the impetus for the investigation was the release of a series of videos regarding transfer of fetal tissues by the Center for Medical Progress, the committee's analysis and findings are based strictly on the documents obtained independently from tissue procurement companies and Planned Parenthood. So, folks, this is some really, really creepy stuff. Let me take you to the next article. And this is from December 8th, 2017. Planned Parenthood under investigation by Justice Department over sale of fetal tissue. You're not supposed to sell fetal tissue. That's not right. The Justice Department has launched a federal investigation into Planned Parenthood's practices and the sale of fetal tissue. In a letter first obtained by Fox News, Justice Department Assistant Attorney General for Legislative Affairs Stephen Boyd formally requested unredacted documents from the Senate Judiciary Committee, the same panel that led the congressional probe into the Women's Health Organization. The Department of Justice appreciates the offer of assistance in obtaining these materials and would like to request the committee provide unredacted copies of records contained in the report in order to further the department's ability to conduct a thorough and comprehensive assessment of that report based on the full range of information available, Boyd wrote. Fox News has learned that last month, the FBI first requested the unredacted documents from the committee. Fox News is told that Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley of Iowa and Ranking Member Dianne Feinstein of California said they needed to receive a letter and be assured that the documents would be used for investigative purposes. The letter sent to Grassley and Feinstein on Thursday is a rare confirmation by the Justice Department of a federal investigation. Wow. Okay, so we've got Planned Parenthood and they're selling off parts, man. Folks, I didn't even know what to say. There's no joke you can make about that. Thoroughly creepy stuff. Folks, those are your Q posts. My apologies. I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so my head is a little bit scattered. Having a hard time concentrating. Lots of Q to chew on there. But it looks like a lot of good stuff. And once again, very, very good news in Armenia. And let's hope we can see more good news around the world. Those are your Q posts. And till next time, if there's any more Q, I will keep you up to date. And until then, stay smart.